Welcome, everyone, to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners Issues and Updates on February 28, 2003. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, what's up?
Thank you, Chair Smith. Good morning. Welcome. Today you have a ginormous list, therefore, and you have an event almost all of you are attending at 11:30. So issues will go until 11:15 a.m. this morning. We will follow the order that it is published in your agenda. There are many, many topics that need to be discussed today because the deadline is today. What we don't finish, though, we will continue tomorrow, March 1st, after the end of the policy session tomorrow. With that, though, with great respect, I ask you on consent agenda, please, your only discussion is, does it go to Thursday's meeting or not? If you have questions or topics, say them and we'll get back to you. But if you spend too much time on consent, we won't make it. So that's just my opinion. Thank you for listening. We're going to start with consent agenda requests. Chair, would you please convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County?
I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County.
Housing Commissioner Ann Leinster is not able to join today, so she is not online. This is a request for consent agenda, approval to apply for an affordable housing construction grant from the City of Milwaukee for the Hillside Park redevelopment project. The anticipated grant value is $2 million. Funding is through the City of Milwaukee construction excise tax. No county general funds are involved. Rod Cook, Devin Ellen, Housing Authority, Health, Housing, Human Services. Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. We've come a long way to get to this point. 2019 Hillside Park Master Plan Design Concept was approved. 2021, a resolution was approved authorizing Housing Authority demolition and disposition. In 2022, approval for redevelopment. Now we seek approval to apply for an affordable housing construction grant to redevelopment of Hillside Park. The request is for Phase 1, which will replace 54 units of near obsolete public housing with 275 units of newly constructed affordable housing. I have our resident expert with me if you have detailed questions.
Go ahead. Sure, yeah. As you know, this project requires quite a bit of capital, so we are bringing several requests to apply for funding to you. This is the first. We'll have several coming at the next issues meeting. Some of those funds will go directly to the developer, some will come to the Housing Authority and then go to the project. We decided to bring all of them to you just so you're aware of what we're applying for.
Good. And there's other pots of money coming into this development as well. Yes, thank you, Commissioner Schrader, for working on that with our federal delegation.
Thank you. That was great.
Any questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you very much. A very worthy project.
Thank you. Chair, would you now convene as Water Environment Services?
I will recess as a Housing Authority of Clackamas County and convene as a Water Environment Services.
This is request for consent agenda, Water Environment Services, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Milwaukee for the Kellogg Good Neighbor Program. Agreement value is approximately $920,000 for 4.5 years. Funding through Water Environment Services Sanitary Sewer Operating Funds. No county general funds are involved. Greg Geis from Water Environment Services, go ahead.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. We had this item February 15th, and so I don't really have anything else to add. A Good Neighbor intergovernmental agreement with Milwaukee makes more efficient use of the accounting and the funding and expands the geographic area.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Chair, would you please convene as the Development Agency?
I will recess as a Water Environment Services and convene as a Development Agency.
This is request for consent agenda for the Development Agency. Item 1, approval of a resolution acknowledging financial statement findings of a material weakness in internal control over compliance for fiscal year 2022 and describing corrective action in accordance with ORS 297.466. No fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. Patrick Williams is a Deputy Director of the Finance Department. He will explain what this is about, although you were emailed about this, Commissioners, from Elizabeth Comfort a few weeks ago. Go ahead, Patrick.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Board. This material weakness is a result of the Department of Finance transferring the original value of a building and land asset located in the Clackamas Town Center development area rather than the original value minus depreciation as required by accounting standards in the property held for sale balance sheet account on the agency's financial statement. Moss Adams acknowledges the agency infrequently transfers these types of capital assets to this balance sheet account. This year, there were 2 such transfers, and one of the assets had a material amount of accumulated depreciation, which resulted in the material weakness finding. We've implemented additional controls, training, and review processes to help ensure this does not happen in the future, and we respectfully ask the board to approve our corrective action plan by resolution.
Questions or comments? So Gary, if we approve this, then a resolution comes back at a later date?
It will actually be on your consent agenda this Thursday, the resolution for you to approve it that method.
Interesting that we have to corrective actions through a resolution, but I'm not a lawyer. Okay. Any objections to this going forward?
Well, Stephen Madcore, is there an issue with, is there another method? Are you listening? Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, item 2, approval of a bill of sale to Clackamas River Water for the conveyance of a new water main extension completed as part of the D Street Road project. The asset value is $287,435.54. No funding involved. The conveyance of improvements only. No county general funds are involved. Dan Johnson, Transportation and Development. Go ahead.
In short, when the development agency does projects of this nature, we'd like to build capacity for the surrounding areas to develop. One of the directives of the development agency is to build developable property and spur development in the area. This is basically an improvement we did. We built additional capacity in the system. Now the asset is complete. It's been inspected. We want to transfer it so we no longer have maintenance responsibility for it.
Questions or comments?
Just one, Chair. I
Yes.
don't have a problem with this in particular, but I sure would like to see the property we own there be cleaned up.
Funny you should say that. We have an RFP right now to do the demolition on the site. We're working through with procurement right now.
Is that D Street?
Yeah. Yep.
So you don't feel there's any value in that structure as far as being marketable? Have we tried to market that property?
We are going to try marketing it now. We want to talk with the board about that first.
Okay, well, people have expressed interest in that building.
In the building?
In the building. Property and building.
Wow.
I think I mentioned that to you a while
About the
back.
property, we'll talk more offline.
Yeah, let's talk more offline on that. Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Seeing no objections going forward, thank you.
Item 3, approval of a conveyance of public sanitary sewer main extension to Water Environment Services, conveying a new sewer main extension that was completed as part of the D Street Road project. Total asset value is $110,863. No funding involved. Conveyance of improvements only. No county general funds are involved.
Build capacity in our sewer line so it can be developed and the adjacent properties can be developed. Same as the last one. The last one was water. This is a sewer line
I
improvement.
see. Questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, Chair, would you reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners?
I will recess as a development agency and convene as a Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you. This is now request for consent agenda for the Board of County Commissioners. First, elected officials, and this is the District Attorney's Office. Item 1, approval of a board order authorizing issuance of a purchase order to Axon Enterprise for the Justice Premier software system. Under a cooperative contract, the purchase order value is $650,190 for 5 years. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. District Attorney John Wentworth is here, and Scott Shearer from the District Attorney's Office. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. County Chair and Board of Commissioners, this request comes at following what you may come to realize that every police officer in Clackamas County, probably by the middle of this year, will have body-worn cameras. Each agency has chosen for itself the platform by which they would use those cameras. In other words, not every police agency uses the same software. The Sheriff's Office, the Westland Police Department, the Molalla Police Department, and the Oregon City Police Department all use Axon as their platform provider. And we are asking to use that same platform in order to process the digital data that we're receiving from all those agencies. Axon can carry or handle 95% of the platforms that we would see. We would have to make an adjustment for the remaining 5%, but Axon can take that load. What's happening for us and why this is such an important ask is we're having to use multiple platforms in order to deal with the multiple kinds of digital data that we're receiving. We now have a mandated requirement. It won't surprise you to know that we have an unfunded mandate from the state that we provide discovery to the defense faster than we've ever had to provide it in the past. And this new amount of digital data that we're receiving is too much for us to carry with so many platforms all at one time. The ability to train our staff in one platform and get it out faster through the cloud and not through an FTP site. And if you ask me anything more detailed than that, I'm going to send you to Mr. Scherer because I won't be able to handle it. But we're not able to carry that load to our mandated requirement at this point. The benefit of doing this will include that we will be in complete CJIS compliance. In other words, compliance with the state and federal regulations regarding security for the use of that software and that data. We are not in compliance currently, and we need to be in order to maintain our ability to get things like criminal history information from police agencies and such. So this is an important ask. There are many other benefits that I can go through, including the ability to sync body-worn cameras. So if we have 5 cameras all going from different police officers, we can sync them into one time and identify exactly what was happening from the perspective of each police officer at one particular moment. Mr. Scheer shared with me this morning, and I know in the time of, a budget restriction, this is important. Axon has actually reduced their prices, and that's helpful. But while I realize this is a big ask, it's what we have to do in order to maintain our services for the police agencies and for the citizens of Clackamas County.
Gary, is this a budgeted item?
It is already budgeted in the district attorney's office, and clearly we would keep it going for 5 years to meet the commitment.
I see it goes to 2027. By then, I'm sure there's going to be a new technology, if not sooner, and then we can pay more money. But no, I do think this is very important. Unfortunately, the Oregon legislature thinks counties are made of money, and we have nothing to do but spend it on their unfunded mandates. I suggest any of our commissioners who visit the legislature on, regardless of your issue, the first thing out of your mouth, dear legislature, stop it now with the unfunded or partially funded mandates to counties. And oh, by the way, our constituents are all the same. That is a very important message. As you know, this board wholly supports your efforts in trying to bring justice to our citizens. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, Chair, I just suggest maybe that our PGA staff go back at least maybe 5 years and start adding up all the unfunded mandates, and let's keep a score of all that and a tally of how much unfunded mandates, and talk with our legislators about that burden.
Yeah, because this one is $750,000. Just snap your finger. Snap your finger. Oh, $1 million here, $1 million here, $1 million here. No big deal. This is a big deal. Yes, and I understand that. Any further questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Thank you very much. Next, County Administration, Item 1, approval of a subrecipient agreement with Mercy Corps for ARPA Capacity Building Recovery Assistance. Total cost, $1.25 million for 19 months. Funding is through the board-approved American Rescue Plan Act funds. No county general funds are involved. Martine Koblenz, Equity Office and County Administration. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. This is the third subrecipient agreement that I told you a couple weeks ago that I'd be bringing forward. So if you have any more questions, there's no more to share.
Yeah, we discussed this openly. Any further questions, Commissioner Scholl?
The item here says $1.25 million for 19 months. Now, this money's going out to nonprofits that had problems from the pandemic.
Yes.
So my hope is that this money is going to be dispersed to those needy nonprofits well under 19 months.
Oh, right. Sooner rather than later. Yes. Yes.
Any further questions? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Juvenile Department, Item 1, approval of an amendment adding funding and extending duration of the intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Health Authority for behavioral rehabilitation service reimbursements. The amendment value is approximately $4,000 over 1.5 years. The total agreement value is now $73,452.60 for 3.5 years. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds involved. Ed, are you here? Ed, if you don't mind, would you please come forward? So Christina, the director, it's a snow day, believe it or not, in parts of the county right now. So Christina, the director, is not able to make it because of a snow day, but Ed is here. And so Ed, if you please quickly explain
Yes,
that.
I had snow this morning as well, but I was able to get here. Welcome, Ed. Go ahead.
Hello, Commissioners, Chair. Yes, this is just an amendment to the current BRS contract that we already have with the state. It's extending it, like Gary said, for an additional until 2 years, until December 2024. And it's adding a little bit of money for youth that were in BRS services during the COVID pandemic, and it's giving just a little bit of like a 10% 10% for the rate. Sorry, it's giving just a small amount for those youth that were actually in the service during that time that were OHP eligible. And it's just a percentage of the rate that we normally get. And it's just to help the providers because they realized there were some additional costs during the COVID pandemic.
So you're asking for your $4,000 increase?
I am.
Okay.
That's really all it is.
That's all there is. Questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Next, Transportation and Development. Item 1, approval of the resolution declaring the public necessity and purpose for acquisition of rights-of-way easements and fee property, and authorizing good faith negotiations and condemnation actions for the Southeast Johnson Creek Boulevard, 79th Place, 82nd Avenue project. Project value is $2,856,705. Funding through the Community Road Fund, Development Agency, federal funds, and House Bill 2017. No county general funds are involved. Dan Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you so much. As the Chair Smith, Commissioners, as you know, this is a step that we have to take before starting any capital project because it allows good faith negotiations. Where we go out and bargain in good faith with adjoining property owners for easements that we may need or property we may need to facilitate these improvements. There are no condemnation actions that take place until we, if needed, we will report back to the board and advance that discussion with the board before taking any action. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 2, approval of an amendment to a supplemental project agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Canby Ferry Intelligent Transportation System project. Amendment value is $268,913.77. Total project value is increased to $1,039,278.77. Funding is through the Ferry Boat Discretionary Program, and it is matched by county road funds. No county general funds are involved.
We've been before the board previously about this agreement. Essentially, it's for the Canby Ferry. It's to modernize and provide remotely monitored boat visibility, traffic signals, and advanced electronic roadway signs for all those roadways approaching the ferry. Basically, what this document does is, and this amendment does, is more memorialize the construction costs that are in there. And there was a slight adjustment because we had to move a couple PGE poles that aren't fundable via these FBD funds. Essentially, this we are modifying the agreement, which does bring more FBD funds in for construction, but our total match right now for county road fund is about $227,000, or about 22%. But it basically just memorializes the construction pricing for the improvements proposed.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, just one. Not necessarily an issue with this, but I thought we were somewhat trying to disinvest, so to speak, or not reinvest in the Canby Ferry, however way you want to look at it. But I do know that your staff have brought to us in the past suggestions of.
Yeah, we were going to build a toll bridge. It was going to be great.
But it just seems to be counterintuitive to some of the suggestions your staff had brought to us in the past.
Well, no, I mean, the nuance around that discussion was the direct investment of road funds in that area on an annual basis. And when you look at the investment of these funds, we invest money to save money in the long run. And so this investment is going to allow us to run the Canby more efficiently and effectively. It's also going to increase the payment options that are down there currently. Right now, a lot of it's just cash transactions. It'll also allow us to take Visa and things of that nature, which will improve our financial stability and accountability and access for those folks who don't have cash on hand. So I'm pleased to report, I don't know the exact numbers, but we've been tracking that. The revenue coming from the ferry is increasing, which is good, which is reducing the necessity for other road funding to be directed there. So.
Thank you. Seeing no objections.
Item 3, approval of an annual intergovernmental agreement with Metro to implement the fiscal year 22-23 annual waste reduction and recycle at work program plan. Total revenue is $685,495 for fiscal year 2022-2023. Funding is through the regional system fees collected on tons of waste disposed in the Metro Service District. No county general funds are involved.
There's a lot of information here, and we can get into this in more detail, but in short, there is a plan that is adopted, and basically Metro pays our staff to assist in that plan and the provision of those services. This is a retroactive IGA. It is a little later than normal because Metro was focused on the distribution of those funds for community cleanup. If you recall, the RV collection funds that we were able to secure in the amount of like $235,000, that had been a priority, which then delayed the delivery of this IGA. This IGA pays for services our staff are doing and education services they're providing. We have been providing those services to date. This basically recoups those monies to offset those costs.
Okay, questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 4, approval of a contract with Harper Hoff Peterson Regalis for the Southeast 172nd Avenue Improvement Project. Total contract value is $6,322,672.07 for 4.5 years. Funding is through the City County Transportation System Development Charges Joint District Fund, Cash Acknowledgement Funds, and the City of Happy Valley Funds. No county general funds are involved.
This is a consultant contract providing project management, survey, environmental studies, permitting, stormwater, and hydraulic utility coordination, geotechnical, traffic engineering, public outreach, right-of-way assistance design, and bid for 172nd. As you know, Happy Valley we've got an IGA with Happy Valley. They are funding the majority of this project. We don't have any additional road fund, but we do have some SDC dollars we're putting here to pay for staff time. Essentially, the project was advertised in accordance with ORS and LCRB rules on July 7th, 2022 through that RFP process. There were 2 proposals that were received. Those proposals were reviewed by staff, county staff, and city staff, and it was determined that Harper Hoff Peterson Regalis was the most appropriate bidder. And so basically, this would advance that contract. This is not construction. This is just design work, though.
Wow. Questions or comments?
Yeah, so not necessarily an issue with the contract, but who is going to be the ultimate owner of 172nd?
Clackamas County.
Why?
Because we don't have the ability to require transfer.
I don't want to be in a situation like we are with Sunnyside Avenue where we're suddenly, well, not suddenly, but we're going to be responsible in perpetuity for those roads.
We will be responsible for the maintenance of that road. That is correct. And so the discussion was, we had a willing partner who was willing to expand 172nd through its totality with a lot of their funding, not ours. We would be assuming some additional liability on the maintenance for that roadway at a future date. That doesn't mean discussions don't continue with Happy Valley, and that might change at a future date in regards to the ownership and the ultimate maintenance responsibility for it.
You know my heartburn with this.
I know. I know. As I see our plows going up and down Sunnyside Road, I feel the same thing. Yep.
Okay.
Any objections to this moving forward? Seeing none.
Thank you. Next, Health, Housing, Human Services. And there are only 18. We'll go quick. All right. Items 1 through 8, Commissioners, items 1 through 8 are all for the same program. They are a local subrecipient grant agreement with 8 different nonprofits for education and outreach for the Commercial Tobacco Prevention Community Grant. Of all 8, the grant value is exactly the same, $20,000 each for 6 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. I'll just read the nonprofits. And I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce Races de Bienestar, DATAHS International, Northwest Family Services, Portland Refugee Support Group, Korean Society for Oregon, Centro Cultural del Coronado, Oregon Chinese Coalition, According to His Word Outreach Education. So those are the first 8 items in a general high-level overview. Rod Cook, Health, Housing, Human Services, would you like to add to that, please?
Yes, well, you've basically discussed all the recipients of these grants at $20,000 each, and so they basically came from the state for culturally diverse entities to do tobacco reduction, education, training, those type of things, and that's what you see throughout these contracts.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Thank you. So jumping ahead, items 9 through 11 are also similar. Items 9 through 11, these are all service agreements with Ride Connection for transportation-related services to disabled or elderly Clackamas County residents or veterans provided by volunteer drivers through the Ride Together program. All the funding is through TriMet and the Federal Transit Administration. No county general funds are involved. Item 9 is for $4,182 for 1 year. Item 10 is $206,670 for 1 year. Item 11 is $5,047 for 1 year. Again, all for the Ride Connection program for transportation services. Rod, go ahead.
Yes, and overall, this is a program, someone needing transportation services with a friend or neighbor willing to meet some of their transportation needs can register with the program. After completion of a background check training, the driver can be reimbursed for approved. So this is just 3 different types of ways we're getting transportation to people who need help getting to their medical appointments and those type of things.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Thank you. We're now at item 12. Item 12, approval of an amendment with Malala Hope, increasing funding and changing the scope of work of a non-federal subrecipient grant to provide services during extreme weather conditions. The agreement value is $122,210. Total grant value is now $173,150 for 1 year. Funding is through the Oregon Housing and Community Services Department and $4,644 in budgeted county general funds.
Yes, as you know, Malala Hope services unhoused individuals during extreme weather and unhealthy air quality events. This winter, the center has provided 1,376 bed nights for warming center services and has exhausted its available funding. So that's why we're coming to you now to add more money to their contract so they continue. And this number does not count what the event we are going through, like as of today. So there's they've possibly served more people than this 1376 number.
So the previous VAT contract value was a lot less than this, correct?
Yes.
And so you're saying we have more cool nights, we have more hot, so we have, this is driven by temperature. The shelter opens at 32 degrees?
32 degrees, yes, ma'am.
And in the heat, it opens at
Yeah, I'm not sure what the heat.
90-something?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
You have the heat dome.
Yeah,
it
that's
was
quite an
definitely-
increase. It's over double.
Yeah. Yes, we only served, like last year this time, there was only 588 bed nights, and we served 52 households. So this year, we've had some extreme events, weather events.
And budgeted county general funds.
It is, yes. There's only 4,644 of that is county general fund. The rest is from the state.
Okay.
And that's where, so we're not asking for more general fund. This is really to increase through the state funding.
Increase the state contribution.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner West.
Yeah, I think that's a good use of money when we give a little bit and the state gives a lot. So that's a way to leverage our dollars. So I see that as a benefit. Is this going towards general operation? Commissioner Scholl and I just toured the facility and have been in conversations, not just with the Hope facility, but also with the city of Malala. So I'm just curious, like, is this operating general, how we can run this thing and we can pay for staff, or like, can you give me an idea what the money goes to?
Yeah, it's typically going to pay for the staff to be there, but there's also, we're feeding them, we're clothing them. I mean, anything they may need in the moment, we're bringing that to them. So I'll say operations generally speaking, but it's typically to make sure there's more staff available to serve the clients who come in.
And this is a private nonprofit, not a county-run facility.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Any objections going forward? Nope.
Thank you. Next, item 13, approval of an amendment increasing funding of a subrecipient grant with Clackamas County Children's Commission for Healthy Families Home Visitors. The amendment value is $132,438.60. The agreement value is increased to $2,111,302.60 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Education. No county general funds are involved.
Yeah, for those not familiar with Healthy Families Oregon is a voluntary evidence-based home visiting program nationally accredited by the Healthy Families of America and the Oregon Department of Education since 2013. These visits may identify and expand community services for mental health, addiction, domestic violence, and early childhood intervention. And basically, they've been averaging about 84 families per quarter, and so this would, and 80% of those who have been in this program have successfully completed the tasks that they need to do, and so this would keep that program moving forward.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, basically, how do you choose the families, Rod? And these are visiting nurses or visiting healthcare workers?
There's multiple systems that a family may come through. Like my daughter just delivered, so theoretically, she's in Washington County, so theoretically, they're working those nurseries and they know that new mothers are having babies, so they're going to approach them and say, are you willing to have this service provided for you? That's typically how it's happening. But it's many doors you can come through. That's one of the main ways they get in touch with them.
I know that the hospital, the Kaiser system has people going in actually evaluating young mothers who may be at risk. Are they also involved in this?
Different hospitals have different relationships. In some places, the hospital itself wants to do it. In other places, they ask our nonprofits who were funded to do this to go in and provide that service. So sometimes it's a warm handoff, sometimes it's a direct. It's based on the hospital system.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner West.
Yeah, these are really great evidence-based programs that I know from practice that are really great in preventative care and we're getting there before the problem gets out of control, and we can get boots and eyes right there on the site. So I think this is a great program and a great use of funds.
Thank you. Seeing no objections.
Item 14, approval of a revenue grant agreement from the Oregon Business Development Department for child care scholarships. Grant value is $250,000 for 1 year. Funding is through the Oregon State Business Development Department. No county general funds are involved.
I think this council has been involved in this, but Clackamas County is referred to as a child care desert. Every regulated child care slot in the county has more than 3 children. In our county, less than 23% of children ages 0 to 5 have access to child care. This limits many adults, especially those impacted by COVID-19, from being able to return to work, which contributes to workforce shortages. If approved, these additional funds will provide 50 low to moderate income families who are not eligible for other child care subsidies with access to child care through tuition and fee scholarships, which will assist them in finding or maintaining employment.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah. So, Rod, I know about we've mapped the child care deserts, and I know we're doing a lot of work with workforce on this. It's one of their key issues they're looking at. So, when I see this, these are scholarships directly to the families, right, in order to help pay for child care.
Yes.
But do we have enough facilities? That's the issue. I mean, how are we connecting them to? Are we connecting them to kinder care? Are we connecting them to in-home? Is it just up to them to kind of figure that out?
It's all of the above. We have a listing of all the different opportunities, and that we're going to try to connect those parents to those different listings. And we always leave it up to the parent to decide at what level they want to engage with the type of services that is available.
So do you see a long waiting list as an issue, though, with some of these facilities?
I think overall, as it says, we're still a desert, so that in itself is a definition of we don't have enough child care facilities. There's 3 children for every 1 slot, so we need to build more capacity.
And I know the legislature, I think, has close to 23, maybe 23 to 28 bills dealing with this facility, because we can give them the scholarship, but if there are no openings, that doesn't help.
That's true.
Okay.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, my concern/curiosity with this is how we do this as equitably as possible and how we get the word out so someone feels that maybe they're not getting the service, or the benefit, and maybe they have a lower income level. I mean, so how do we apply that? It sounds like a very challenging, a very, very, all the things that we strive to do for those who are most in need and try to prevent people from losing their homes or their apartments or whatever it may be, knowing that child care is a huge expense. So how do we distinguish where who wins the award or who gets the service?
Yeah, I think there's marketing happening in different places. Again, it's going to be through hospitals. It may be through the Healthy Families Project. There's parenting groups that meet, and there's, they go out and do parenting classes. You've actually approved a lot of contracts there. So in all those environments, that's where they're trying to let mothers know, or parents know, I shouldn't say just mothers, that there is childcare available and where those might be and where the open slots might even occur. But yeah, we have to do more. But we don't have a lot of marketing funds to be on the news every day or media.
Feels like a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it is.
So, Commissioners, I know these issues are very important, and we can discuss everything on the consent agenda as long as you want. But the issues that are coming up today are requests from commissioners. And so if we want to continue discussing these items, that's okay with me. But tomorrow, we'll be working probably into the afternoon.
That's okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Any objections to this going forward? Seeing none.
Item 15, approval to submit final home American Rescue Plan allocation plan. Grant value is $3,649,508 for 10 years. Funding is through a federal home grant. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, in quick history, on January 23rd, 2023, a draft report was posted for comments. On February 2nd, the board held a public hearing. One supportive public comment was submitted by email. The plan has been updated with the public hearing and public comment information. And basically what the plan is asking for is $3 million, a little bit over $3 million for the development of affordable rental housing, and $547,426 for grant administration.
Questions or comments? Any objections to this moving forward? Go ahead.
Item 16, approval of a federal subrecipient agreement with Clackamas County Circuit Court to provide a court clerk to assist with restraining orders at a Safe Place Family Justice Center. Grant value is $246,251 for 2 years and 9 months. Funding is through the U.S. Department of Justice, Office on Violence Against Women. Fiscal year 2022, Improving Criminal Justice Response Grant. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, and if approved, this agreement, Clackamas County Courts will fund a part-time abuse prevention court clerk based at a Safe Place Family Justice Center that does all our domestic violence work.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 17, approval of an amendment increasing funding and duration of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for Choice Model Services. The amendment value is $423,946.50 for 6 months. Total agreement value is increased to $1,271,839.49 for 1.5 years. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved.
Just for the record, Choice Model Services promote facility-based mental health treatment, boost care coordination for adults with severe and persistent mental illness, living in the least restrictive environment, and minimize long-term institutional care. Through this agreement, the team has prioritized the expansion of adult foster homes in Clackamas County. The mission for 2023 is to assist in opening up 5 homes, 24 beds, in partnership with the Oregon Health Authority.
Questions or comments? Seeing none.
Item 18, approval of a non-federal subrecipient agreement with Cascade AIDS Project Blueprint Grant for Translation Services. Grant value is $25,000 for 6 months. Funding is through budgeted county general funds.
And basically, this amendment is for translation services at the food pantry.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Commissioners. All of these items will go on this Thursday's business meeting agenda. Next to the regular issues list, first up, Abernathy Green Project Draft Support Letter. Christina Fadenrecht from County Administration will present. There's a draft in your packet. This letter is due today, should you choose to send it. Go ahead, Christina.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners. I am back before you with a revised request for a general letter of support. It's from the Summit LLC in the City of Oregon City towards the transportation improvements at the former Rossman landfill. This is for the RAISE grant application, Abernathy Green Access Project. This letter does not commit you to grant administration or project management. Summit LLC is today still confirming the lead on the project to be ODOT. If you approve, this does not commit you to anything. I can obtain your signature and we can submit it to them for support of this project.
So this is interesting. It leads to a broader conversation on the transportation upgrades. And this is for where again?
This is the former Rossman landfill site. It's down in Oregon City by the current Home Depot.
Where the corner of Redland Road and Highway 213. Does that ring any bells, commissioners? Is that where this improvement is?
This is Redland Road, Abernathy Road, and Washington Street. That would be.
So there is by, to me, this is an admission that the Rossman landfill people or the Abernathy Greens development is aware of significant transportation impacts. And that the Clackamas County Courthouse is not the only one whose project will impact that road. And I think it's very good that we are not going forward with the grant application nor assuming responsibility. And I'm glad ODOT is going to do that. Do we have written approval from ODOT?
We don't, and I spoke to the development group today to see if they've confirmed, and they have not yet. So we may be informed later today. They don't have an option C at this time if ODOT chooses not to support.
So in the letter, does it indicate, let's see, that ODOT is going to be taking responsibility for this? It does not.
No, it does not.
Why not?
Because they haven't
don't
confirmed
have
that
that
yet.
answer.
We could though, put it in our letter.
Well, I mean, look, it's an ODOT road. It's ODOT's response. There's Highway 213, there's I-205, there's the jug handle. To me, that's significant. So any opportunity that I think this board can take to push back on other forces to mitigate this whole huge area, we should be doing. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I get your point, Chair, and certainly aware of the other related projects in the vicinity and how the courthouse project is going to be paying for a portion of an intersection improvement. And hopefully our staff will be able to, work through that with the city and hopefully all the other developments that happen by. I'm not sure this is that point in time and juncture in which to do that, but we ought to be mindful and remind them that this is a concern that we need to work out in the next couple of years.
That's exactly right, and I will bring this forward as much as I possibly can in a public manner. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, thank you for this, Christine. You spent a lot of time on this. And I think the issue is that we are supportive of the Abernathy project. However, we cannot be the main administrators of it because we have to concentrate on other, I think Dan is still here, other priorities that we have. I still think that it is a good project. I think our role with this is to support it and push back with ODOT to make sure that they are the ones that are absolutely trying to handle this. And I do think we can do that, so.
Thank you very much.
I'm okay with the letter going forward with that.
I think I need a motion.
Clarification.
But before I make a motion, do all board members want to sign it, or do you just want the chair to sign it? Doesn't matter to me.
I'll sign it, I don't care.
All board members?
All board members will sign
Okay.
it.
So I'll entertain a motion.
I move we support the Abernathy project as outlined in this letter written February 28th, 2023 to the U.S. Department of Transportation.
And signed by all county board members.
Correct.
I'll second.
Commissioner Schrader has moved we approve the letter in support of the Abernathy Greens project with no county administration or whatever, signed by all board members. And Commissioner West has signed as a second that motion. Any further discussion? Tony, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schull?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Oregon Main Street Revitalization Grant Agreement. Nancy Bush from County Administration will present. There's a memo in your packet. This also needs a decision point today. Go ahead, Nancy.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked to you about the 2023 Oregon Main Street Revitalization Grant. This grant is something that the Downtown Oregon City Association wants to apply for. It is for the courthouse on Main Street. They cannot apply for this unless we sign an agreement with them saying that they can, because we are the owners of that facility. In your packet is that agreement that we did draft up at your request a couple of weeks ago. And in this too is also a attachment A, which is the summary that would follow with and would go with the grant if you so decide that you want to sign this agreement.
So there was a motion made last week and it died for lack of a second regarding the support of this project. And so what does Oregon City want to do? They want to come into the county-owned courthouse and what?
This is to help them determine what may happen to the facility in the future. So the association is the one driving this. Oregon City is a partner with them, and they are giving them the match dollars if we move forward. But there is no decision by you, the commissioners, on what we're going to do with the building, but this is something that they think could help.
And if I remember our conversation the last time we discussed this, it is almost as if we allow Oregon City to do that by somehow in their mind, we are thinking that they're going to be first in line to buy the courthouse, or and they're going to come in and do a whole bunch of internal engineering design analysis. And I have a lot of heartburn with this, Commissioners. I have to be honest with you. We have a couple commissioners who want to comment on it. Gary, you have a comment on this?
I do. I'm certainly, and I'm sure you are too, sympathetic to the businesses located down in Oregon City by the current courthouse who are concerned when that building is vacated, what will happen to their business traffic. But so will all that business be brought up here, which is also still within the city of Oregon City. So I'm concerned, Commissioners, this is your building. You own this building. The county owns this building. This is 2 years from now. You've given no indication yet what you want to do with that building. And this grant seems to be premature, in my opinion. Maybe a year and a half from now, this is something we partner with, but this is not the time to do this, in my opinion.
And grants come and go. There'll be other opportunities for grants like this. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Schrader and then Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with this program. We actually used this program, the Main Street program, to help rehabilitate buildings in Estacada, I think even Sandy. They usually have to do with historic buildings. I do think that the underlying assumption is that somehow we would work something out with the city to purchase this. I think what they're trying to apply for their for their Main Street redevelopment is the dollars actually to do their due diligence about what that building would mean to be historically rehabbed for the area. It's not a bad idea. I have less heartburn with it because this is something that we've done with other cities previously. But I do think the question is that we still own it. So I don't know what the conundrum is here that we need to solve in that. Should we let them go ahead and at least do their due diligence to see if, again, they would purchase the building from us and then actually...
Well, if you go to page 2, at the bottom of page 2, this grant application is asking for support with the following: engineering and architecture study, geotech, environmental, property survey, appraisal of the property, and economic impact study. And Lord knows what, I do not think that at this time, Commissioners, that this is appropriate use of their money. Now, if they want to study the rest of the downtown areas, have at it. But again, I have a lot of heartburn of Oregon City coming in and basically allowing outside firms in our building to make an analysis
On their behalf.
and use it on their behalf when there may be other entities that are interested in this. Because we've been very clear, we've been very consistent, that we will consider the disposition of the old courthouse after we occupy the new courthouse. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, certainly there's a lot of things going on in Oregon City, and actually it's kind of exciting if a number of those things come to fruition. We are getting back to the courthouse obligation for the intersection that we just spoke about as an example. There's just a lot on the table, but there is one sentence in here that does lead me to having a little bit of concern that it kind of infers, and I'll just read the sentence. It's the in the second paragraph of the agreement. The organization is at the accredited Main Street level of the Oregon Main Street program, and will request a Main Street revitalization grant from Oregon Main Street to prepare for rehabilitation of the owner's building located. So it infers that, there'll be, rehabilitation and I just kind of concerned that might infer that we've already made a decision to do that. I do understand the chair's point. And I think the timing of this, indeed, when's the courthouse to be constructed, finished?
May 25.
And this process will take how long to accomplish if this grant goes forward today, or where this letter goes forward today? Approval for bid for studies, the owner allows to September.
July of 2024.
July 2023. So
24.
I think there's some opportunities to try and work that out amongst ourselves. I don't know what kind of financial position we're going to be in as a result of the intersection improvements and all the other things that the cost of the courthouse. So unless there's a compelling urgency to do this today or not next year, I think maybe pausing might be an appropriate thing until we work out some of those details.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Any further comments from commissioners on this?
Yeah, this will be my last comment because I know we're under a timeline here. I think this gives them the information, Oregon City, the information that they need to decide whether or not the building is going to be possibly rehabbed. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into the sticks and bricks of historic preservation. And it may give them a decision point that, oh, no, we can't. There's no way we can actually do this or get the money to do it.
Well, then let's just pause for a year.
Oh, that's
And
okay. I mean,
if there's
I'm
another
just-
grant opportunity that comes, I will not bring this forward until at least a year, because hopefully the timeline of May 25 will be done, but we don't know what the future lies for us. So I think, Gary, what's our next action on this?
So only if you're going to approve it, would I ask for a motion? But if there's no interest, we'll just pause.
I won't make a motion to approve. I don't think the votes are here right now. And I think what I'm hearing from my colleagues is they want to give it more time. Again, just let me reiterate that the Main Street program this particular one is part of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and it gives people the information they need in order to know whether or not they can move forward actually with the preservation of a meeting. So I would respectfully suggest that if we do not have the consensus to move it forward now, that we keep this on the back burner, talk to Oregon City, and see if we can resurrect it when the time comes. I just wanted to get that on the record. That sounds the direction in which we're going.
Commissioner Schrader.
Commissioner
Schrader.
Yes.
You know the issues. We do not have consensus to move forward on this. Gary, what's up next?
All right, thank you. Next, we will hold advisory boards to tomorrow. Legislative update, Sue Hildick and Chris Lyons from Public and Government Affairs. There's a deadline on this as well, so please come forward. Sorry, Trent Wilson as well.
Yes, welcome.
Morning.
Go ahead.
Madam
Chair and Commissioners, we're back before you on congressionally directed earmark requests. Remember, you looked at a list of 10. We have narrowed that down to 4 that we're bringing to you today for a total of a little more than $8 million. The 6 that are not on the list is not because they're not valuable. It's just a question of readiness and fit with the opportunities at the congressional level. So Trent's going to run you through that list, and then we also have a couple of letters we're seeking approval on.
Thanks very much. Good morning, Commissioners and Administrator Schmidt. Very quickly, we have 4 projects that we're recommending. 3 of them we are going to submit this Friday, which is the Senate submission deadline. The other one we'll submit through the House process, which has not opened yet or has a date. We're expecting that to occur in March. For those projects that are on the recommended list, we are already working to organize submission materials just because of this very quickly approaching deadline. Our staff notes that those are conditional work based on what you decide here today. So we know that it's a lot to put together. We know that we have a short timeline, so we've been working to get ahead of that with the recommendation here. Happy to answer any questions about all of that, of course. And I guess one final point before I open to questions is we heard your direction 2 weeks ago to try to find partner cities to submit for. We do have 2 cities that are requesting for CDS, not through the 10 projects that we were initially looking at, but with the projects that we had on our list with our recommendation group, we did not find one that had an adequate fit to do what y'all were requesting. It's a good idea, though. We can aim for that in the 24 submission. But what we have here is what we will submit at the county.
Okay, so you have 4 projects on this list. Do you want us to give approval to all 4?
We do.
Well, I happen to like them. I think there's some transportation, there's behavioral health, there is public safety at the Sheriff's Department. Commissioners, do you have any comments? Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, well, I remember the discussion we had, and I can see a lot of those projects are not being recommended for the list here today. So I'm a little bit surprised about that. I'm not sure I've heard exactly why. But the first one, which is quite a bit of money, the Clackamas Rural Transit Enhancements, as far as the electrification aspect is what it seems to be. I just have a question really about, does this include all of the cost for charging stations and electrification and running power to all these facilities along the routes? That's a hefty expense.
We are working closely with the transit providers, all 5 of them, including our own at Mount Hood Express, to ensure that infrastructure is there. One of the facilities in Wilsonville, the SMART program, is actually a bike enclosure, so that they already run electric programs, and so that's specific to multimodal access to their facilities. The Sandy program is the one that needs that infrastructure that you're talking about, and so their request is actually to have a bay to be able to receive that, and then Mount Hood Express would be able to use that same bay, so that's actually an increased partnership through that request. So yes, we believe that infrastructure does exist, and we're working with those agencies closely to make sure that this would be a competitive request.
Yep, I asked this question because you know the terrain there, right?
Yes.
It's quite steep, and I have a family member of mine who had just made an arrangement with Ford Motor Company for his fleet and realized that the range in which they promised was not achievable because of the grades, particularly in the destination in which they chose to go between their locations. So I just don't know how much homework has been done here to make sure it's actually viable. So the range going on a flat level road is not the same going up an elevation up to that height. So I just want to know the practicality, the actual engineering, if that's actually possible to go that distance between charging stations.
We are navigating that with the Sandy program and their buses. They are staying within the city of Sandy itself, so their elevation changes are not as severe. For the Mount Hood Express program, that's correct. We would not be purchasing a shuttle that goes all the way up to Government Camp. They're specifically looking at a local commuter shuttle for like the Villages and Welch's area. So it's more isolated to like a smaller area that would be able to navigate those needs. So we are navigating that question very closely internally here with our team.
So is it urgent that we approve this today without knowing?
The application is due on
March 2nd.
That's right, on this Friday, March 3rd. So yes, today is the day, Commissioners.
I have some discomfort with that, just because of that question, frankly.
We can only do what we can do. We're up against it. Now this is for the Senate, correct?
Correct, because this includes multiple providers across multiple House districts. We are going to target this for a Senate request, which is easier to cover that spread.
So, Commissioners, any other comments on the wish list here? Gary, do we entertain a motion?
Yes,
We
please.
entertain a motion for approval of all 4 projects.
I move approval for approval of all 4 projects.
Seconded.
Commissioner Schrader has moved for approval of application of earmarked projects, Clackamas Rural Transit Enhancements, Mount Hood Transit Enhancements, 911 Safety Wellness and Service Enhancements, School-Based Behavioral Health, Substance Abuse, Juvenile High School Project, and is that it? Okay. And Commissioner Scholl has seconded the motion. Further discussion?
Chair, I'm not going to be supporting this today. I really think that the withdrawal management detox facilities and some of the other things we discussed recently are, I think, a higher priority and far more practical, far more needed. I like all the projects. I do have questions about the first one, of course, here today, but I just can't get there today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Any further discussion? Tony, take the poll.
You're fine.
Commissioner West?
No.
Commissioner Savas?
No.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye. Motion passes 3-2. Up next.
Madam Chair, we have 2 letters, 2 support letters, one from West Lynn and one from Estacada on their grant submissions, and I just want to make sure we have your agreement on those. Trent, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. So 2 cities are also applying for congressionally directed request as well. And in your packet included was a draft letter that we can provide to support their projects for the city of West Lynn. They are applying for their water pipe that goes underneath the Abernathy Bridge. That's a significant cost to that city. It was a pipe that could have lasted another 20 years, but because of the Abernathy Bridge construction, they're having to replace it earlier. So they were seeking $2 million, I believe, for that. That's one of your letters. And the other one is for the city of Estacada, which is rapidly growing. That's good news, of course. But their wastewater system needs quick improvement to be able to handle that growth. And they are also applying for a CDS request at about $2 million.
And those 2 letters are in our packet addressed to Senators Wyden and Merkley. Is that correct?
That's correct. And if they also apply to their respective House members to sort of double down on to see which delegation member will support their request, we, with your direction, we could also provide a letter in that way as well.
Questions or comments regarding that? We did send, did not we send a letter to the Oregon legislature in support of West Lynn's help with paying for that, correct?
They are looking under every rock. That's correct. I believe that we
Did we send that out?
I don't remember that.
Okay, the mayor of West Lynn was supposed to contact us with information, a draft, so we could be in support of their ask with the Oregon legislature, but maybe that has not happened. Okay, whatever.
We can certainly follow up with them, but this is for the federal request.
Yeah, he was supposed to send something over for us on that. Any further questions or comments regarding these 2 letters of support? Do we need a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of both letters of support.
Second.
Commissioner Schrader has moved for approval of support letters for the City of West Lynn and the City of Estacada for funding projects to Senators Wyden and Merkley. Commissioner Savas has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, take the poll.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Okay, Government Affairs team, I encourage you to stay at the table because the next 2 are legislative related. Chair Smith, would you like to do county land use priorities now or wait till tomorrow?
Well, we only have 10 minutes. I don't see how we can fully discuss county land. You're
All
going to
right.
have to come back tomorrow.
Okay, Commissioner West, can you do yours in 10 minutes? This is a request to oppose House Bill 3152, which puts restrictions on natural gas.
So this is brought by and sponsored by Representative Marsh, Gamba, and Senator Dembro. This would make it a statewide ban on new construction having natural gas, House Bill 3152. It's somewhat urgent because it's scheduled for the House Committee on Climate, Energy, and Environment on 3/1 at 3 p.m. In hearing room C. I think the bill has a lot of flaws in it. The bill erroneously assumes that electrification equals decarbonization and that electrifying gas homes will instantly result in lower greenhouse gas emissions. To put it simply, it will not. And depending on how the electricity generated for a particular homeowner may actually increase emissions. The fact is that the electric companies will be using gas in the 40% efficiency range to generate electricity for decades, and numerous of city-generated models show that electrifying new construction now reduce overall greenhouse gases by less than 1%. And if the gas mix is conventionally sourced, instead of including increasing amounts of renewable natural gas and blending hydrogen. In all, it's bad policy. I think it takes away choice from consumers, increased costs on working families and businesses. It makes housing more expensive. I would hope that Clackamas County could be a leader on this issue in supporting natural gas and that industry in our county. I think we have a unique position to give cover to legislators that may want to oppose this bill as taking a lead. Also, as Chair Smith said earlier, we all have the same constituents. I think there's other stakeholders that oppose this bill too. I hope that we can maybe also rally 16 cities in Clackamas County and other counties just on a local level that we support the natural gas industry and still see its value. It's also the backbone for renewable energy. Renewable energy industry doesn't exist without natural gas providing consistent energy sources. I think overall this is a really harmful bill, and it's a good opportunity for us to stand up for a good industry and energy choice.
So Commissioner West, you've asked for two things. You've asked that this board oppose House Bill 3152, and your second ask was to send some type of a message in support of use of natural gas. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, Commissioner Savas, you're in the queue.
Yeah, I have more of a practicality approach on this, and my concern, similar to the one with the legislative agenda for the electrification of the buses in the Mount Hood Express area, for example, and that's the practicality. In my long history of air quality and so forth, I have seen over and over again politicians trying to make our politicians advancing legislation or bills not really based on science or reliability or system considerations. I'm just kind of concerned, frankly, that where I'm coming from on this is, and why I would oppose the concept of it, is that they're not really offering an alternative that's going to keep people, let's say, on a frozen day of 10 degrees and the electricity's out, no alternative in order to heat. So it's the practicality, it's the pragmatic reality that unless there's an alternative for people to heat their homes or whatever it may be, or to cook their food or whatever it may be, it does not seem practical to eliminate an alternative. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not necessarily saying I'm supportive or not supportive of natural gas or the industry. I'm not necessarily comfortable going that far out on a limb to say I'm here to support, an industry per se. I'm certainly not against the industry, but it just goes to the practicality of eliminating a critical energy source.
Okay. Commissioner Schrader.
I actually agree with what Commissioner Savas said. I believe that it's premature in that I have not really understood why there hasn't been more movement towards really electrification and how we would actually be expanding the grid prior to moving forward with these kinds of policies. So for me, it's more of a first things first issue. If you want to switch from one energy form to another, and I'm not against the industry, I see it as a bridging industry, actually, in terms of providing power. But I'm concerned about the larger impact on our electric grid, and that with cars and housing, that capacity hasn't actually been expanded in a way that concerns me. So if I was to give advice to our legislative colleagues, I would be taking a closer look at policies that work in that direction so we can move towards cleaner supplies. But I do believe natural gas. I don't see requiring it as practical at this time because we haven't done that groundwork ahead of time.
Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, I agree that HB 3152 needs to be opposed. Natural gas is our most efficient fuel source for heating our homes. When we eliminate natural gas and go to electricity, the cost to maintain your home for our families will increase. And at the same time, natural gas-fired electrical plants will be burning natural gas to create electricity that goes to your home that's more expensive than the very efficient natural gas we have. On behalf of the natural gas industry, I've been impressed over the last 33 years that I've owned my home. When I need to get a new hot water heater, I look at it, wow, this is much more efficient than it was 15 years ago. Same with natural gas-fired heating systems, much more efficient. I'm very proud of the natural gas industry. Again, I oppose HD 3152, and I would be more than willing to send my encouragement to the natural gas industry.
What I'm hearing is we have two decision points. I suppose we look at each one separately. Do we oppose House Bill 3152? And regarding a statement of support, I would like to see a statement of support from this board, that we review it, maybe county council can craft something that says that we support all energy sources. We are not have the authority to ban choices that our constituents want to make. And that includes the support of natural gas and propane, by the way. It includes the support of electricity and wood stoves, because we have an overabundance of firewood since our ice storm that people are taking advantage of. That's what I would like to see. So we have 2 minutes left. Commissioner West, can you be brief?
Less than 2 minutes. I think principally I would hope that this board would oppose any type of legislation that does nothing to actually address the issue of climate change, but makes everyone's life more expensive or more difficult. And I think that's exactly what this bill does.
Okay, Commissioner Savas.
I think we're coming from different places and different viewpoints on this, but I think the common denominator is opposition. So maybe we just keep it simple to opposition. That might be the safest place where I can support
Now,
opposing
well, do
it.
we have a concurrence of a statement of support for energy supply?
Yeah.
So
I
far,
don't- what does that mean?
well, I don't know what it means because we have to write it down and we have to bring it forward in a policy session.
Why don't we just do that and bring it forward in the policy
That's what I
session?
want to see. I want to see county council and Commissioner West, you get together on a resolution or a statement of support for at least the 4 energy sources I cited, and maybe there's nuclear out there. Boy, that'd really put a pea in somebody's shoe now, wouldn't it? Yeah, we'll just build our own nuclear facility. No, I'm,
No general fund dollars.
yeah, so I would like to see that coming forward, Paul. I don't know what it's going to look like, but there is a majority of people at this board who wants to see that. Now, regarding House Bill 3152, do I hear a motion?
Your Honor, I move that the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners publicly opposes House Bill 3152.
Seconded.
Commissioner West has made a motion to oppose House Bill 3152. Commissioner Scholl has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tonya, please take the poll.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, colleagues. I know some of this is very difficult, but that's what we get to do is make decisions.
I know. I will speak to my friend, Representative Gamba, and I will sit with him and talk about what comes first things first. I do understand what Mark said, that gas is used to generate electricity. So again, my sense is that we need to build that capacity. It sounds like we'd have to do it without natural gas. I don't know how possible that is.
Okay,
try it.
seeing no further business before this board, we will continue the issues and updates to tomorrow, and we are in recess.